Good afternoon. What I'm going to do this afternoon is give you some history about my company, explain some of the problems that we have encountered over the last decade, how we've resolved those issues. In the process, we've added value to our company and leveraged our intellectual capital via the process of strategic alliances, and I hope to go into that at some length. Instamar Limited is a 20-person applied engineering company that specializes in the development of contact and close proximity sensor systems. Our systems go from the simple application of just detecting the onset of freezing precipitation to the more complex instrument, which is our about-to-be publicly announced clean wing detection system. In addition, we've developed sensors for the United States Aerospace Program. We've done simulation work for the Canadian Space Agency and worked on the new generation of the Canada arm, which is called a Special Purpose Remote Manipulator System. So that all sounds well and good, but how does it relate to value-added activities? Well, of course, we've discovered that we can leverage our individual intellectual capital here by forming joint ventures, strategic alliances, partnerships, teaming arrangements, and signing memorandums of understanding. In another application, Martin Luther King Jr. said, quote, "Our loyalties must transcend our race, our tribe, our class, and our nation. And this means we must develop a world perspective. No individual can live alone, no nation can live alone, and as long as we try, the more we are going to have war in this world. Now the judgment of God is upon us, and we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we're all going to perish together as fools." Unquote. Business is war. Economic war, and it's conducted by nations, conglomerates, cartels, any other predatory type entity. Survival for the smaller companies such as ours requires alliances, just as in any other war. By stretching our business alliances farther and farther, we can improve our chances of winning in that war. At Instamar, we've decided to go to war in the aviation and aerospace industries. When we made that decision several years ago, we, since then, have had to deal with the end of the Cold War, shrinking defense budgets, the recession, deregulation of the aviation industry and the resultant chaos, and then all of the problems that go along with doing business in Newfoundland, such as distance from all the clients, small size, official skepticism that we have an IQ above 12, and lack of confidence. Our biggest problem, personally, is that comment. We really do lack confidence to go out and enter that fray. Given such threats to our existence, what have we done to try to overcome these problems? We've embarked on a vigorous program of productivity and in particular have increased our emphasis on our total quality program. We're striving to eliminate any redundancies, improve efficiency, and reduce waste. We're breaking down communications barriers within the company and promoted a team approach to all of our corporate operations. Long gone are my wonderful days as dictator, benevolent or otherwise. We have implemented corporate wellness programs. We've emphasized special preventative mental and physical health programs to go along with our enhanced benefits programs. Social interaction amongst our families is also a part of this well-rounded program. We have always listened to our customer and made him our main concern, but it is definitely now customer first. We're committed to a policy of continuous improvement that recognizes that the journey is the goal and that the process is continuous and never-ending. So we believe we've done our bit in becoming what we want to be and what we believe the world wants us to be. But how are we going to let the world know? We create new products in response to market need. How do we define that market and that market's needs, and how do we get to distribute our products into that market? In the mid-1980s, we had decided that the market we wished to approach was the world. We were well and truly into globalization a long time ago. Certainly we realized that we would only go for certain product segments we had specialized knowledge in, such as optical systems, but there was no reason that we couldn't establish a sales force and conquer the world, since we believed we had demonstrably superior products. The lesson we learned was that the world is full of products, either good, bad, or indifferent, and there is always too much product for too little market. We even discovered that some well-organized, large sales forces don't tell the total truth about their products and even manage to sell them regardless. Another lesson we then learned was to try to go the international distributor route. I believe this may be a good route for a lot of people. It wasn't for us. We believed that the products had to be better than the ones we were distributing. Because by now, or by then, we were learning a bit about market pull, and about how everyone has a different idea about what the product should do and what it should be, including its color, its size, its weight. And if you couldn't turn around and meet what the client wanted, then you would have to rework your own system because someone else was able to meet the particular customer quirk that was being demonstrated. Feedback from our distributors sometimes became so diverse that we didn't really think we were all talking about the same systems that we were selling. I mean, why would they expect the system to do that? It's never designed to do that. That didn't matter. The distributor wanted it to do that because the client said so. So we went through a time of retrenchment, as the phrase goes. We, quote, regrouped and consolidated our facilities and downsized our workforce, unquote. In other words, we hit the wall running. There was little wrong with our products, but there was a lot wrong with our approach. We were not going to penetrate markets with what we were doing, and on top of that, competition was increasing, so we had to do more than adopt improved efficiencies. We had to find some new products, and we had to have new methods of market access. This became a twin-barreled approach in the company as we tried to find the appropriate new products and the new way for market access. I don't think anything that we did has not been written about by somebody somewhere, but having lived through the process, I feel ownership of it, and I'm comfortable relating to you today some distillation of all of those diverse theories. Winning at New Products is a seminar taught by Dr. Robert Cooper from McMaster and was brought to Newfoundland several years ago by the Canadian Centre for Marine Communications. It taught us all about the gateway system of product selection, and it reduces your chance of failure from approximately 90% for the neophyte to around 30% for the sophisticate who's done the seminar and read the books. And that's quite true because new products entering the marketplace fail dramatically all the time. And it's as much an art as it is a science. However, you can improve your chances. In descending order of importance, the gateway system's to do with developing a product that is superior to competing products and meeting customers' needs, is of higher quality than competing products, reduces customers' costs, has unique features for the customer, does a unique task for the customer, or is a highly innovative product new to market. Notice that the highly innovative product new to market comes dead last in the success categories. This was a great shock to us since we were in the highly innovative business. Anyway, using his guidelines, we narrowed our focus on a product that we had under development which was designed to detect the presence of ice on the wings of aircraft. We'd been doing research into the detection of substances in layers for some time. In addition, we were also working on the non-intrusive methods of measuring ice thickness. That may sound easy, but it's infinitely complex when you realize that ice does not form like an ice cube with a definitive separation between ice and water. There is ice on the top, and there is water on the bottom, and various stages and degrees of slush in between. And when you're trying to give a definitive measurement of how thick is that ice, all of a sudden you get into a realm of impossibility. As we were doing this, different branches of research, there was the Arrow air crash in Gander. This was alleged to have been caused by ice on the wings, which reduced the lift and caused the loss of several hundred lives. We felt at that time we could develop a sensor to warn pilots about ice buildup, and were fortunate enough to be able to convince both the Federal Departments of Transportation and Defense, together with the National Research Council, to fund the development and testing of prototypes of this type of sensor. During the development work, there was another Canadian airplane crash with loss of lives in Dryden, Ontario, also caused by ice on the wings. To cut a long story off, the sensor was not only successful at detecting ice, but it could also detect snow. And it appeared to be easily able to detect other potential substances on the wings, such as de- and anti-icing fluids, and on top of that, could probably detect those substances in layers and tell the thickness of the layers. Then, just as this was all being discovered last year, another plane crash in New York with loss of life, again due to ice and snow on the wings of the plane at takeoff. We now had significant market pull for a product, but what specific product the market wanted we still didn't know. However, there was no question that we were exercising our main skill, innovation, and now we had to solve the second part of our puzzle. Throughout the product development phase, we were investigating the other part of this tale, which is the new method of market access for us. This is the part about leveraging our intellectual capital, and that's why I'm here, so I hope you're awake still. We started in the late 80s with the concept of let's be friends. Now, this is more formally stated as the Memorandum of Understanding. The MOU basically says that the prime contractor will go out and bid a job and include your skills as part of the backup documentation. After the award, you negotiate a contract. And this has some benefits in that it at least gets you to the agree-to-agree phase of a relationship. The two signatories agree that they wish to move in a common direction towards a common goal. We've signed about 8 of these so far. Under one, a significant contract was acquired, and we received a large subcontract after very intense negotiations. Under 2 others, some work was acquired, but after virtually no negotiations at all, we were cut out of the rewards completely. Under the remaining 5, no work has been acquired to date, only bidding expenses. The problem with memorandums of understanding is that they are absolutely non-binding, and if you are in a David and Goliath relationship and Goliath decides that he's used your name but doesn't need to use your services, then I'm sorry, but David's slingshot is defective in that instance. The next type of relationship is the teaming arrangement. And this is an improvement we find because each member of the team bids his own section of the work, and the prime contractor integrates the bids and submits the whole. The intention is for the sum of the parts to be greater than the whole. It usually also adds regional distribution, which is key in Canadian government bids. After awards, the contracts always change in scope and size, just as the nature of business is, but at least such things as the scope of work that you individually are performing and your charge-out rates are already agreed, and it's virtually impossible for the prime contractor to cut out the sub. Unfortunately, the cost of doing these fixed-price bids is very high, and with success rates in the 35% range, pursuing this work can be devastating if you have a bad year. You're talking $30,000 to $50,000 for a firm of our size to prepare one of these bids. It gets extremely expensive. We've done 3 of these so far and have met with and teamed with some really credible partners with whom we've been very pleased. However, we spend even more money on these bids than on MOUs and haven't received any contracts yet. It does get your name bandied about in high places, however. We've also formed several joint ventures. These are usually agreements to pursue product-specific areas of growth. Most joint ventures specify the target market and will frequently set sales targets. Our experience has been for joint ventures to relate mainly to technology transfer from a foreign national to ourselves to compete in a specified work target. We've mainly used these in pursuit of Hibernia-related work. The appropriate North Sea company, say, wants Hibernia work without establishing a Newfoundland office. The intention upon acquisition of a contract in the specified areas for our company to be trained in the technology, handle the installation and commissioning under supervision, and then be the local support office for the duration of the project. I've seen numerous of these, and some have the major partner providing financial support during the bid phase, some provide interim training, and some leave you totally alone until the bid document is finished. We've had limited success with these, but we are very pleased with them in general. The partner that you pick has to be the key man in the market area. The market area has to be thoroughly reviewed for product fit with your existing business plan. Financially and technically, they can be very rewarding. However, the most successful level of leveraging that we have used is the strategic alliance. This has several versions that go from enhanced teaming agreements to what I call full marriage arrangements with the appropriate exchanges of equity. This becomes much more formal, and this is really when you start to see the lawyers appear. The simplest form is an advanced form of the MOU, but the commitment to each other becomes more formal, even though it's still non-binding. Generally, the 2 of you agree precisely what you intend to do together, and within reason how you intend to do it. Goals and timetables are set and measurements established. It's a real framework within which to work, and usually has the larger partner finding the work and the smaller one performing defined subcontracts, and in some way adding value to the prime contractor. In one of these that we signed at that level, we will become qualified manufacturers of small batches of space hardware. Our larger partner does not manufacture in small specialty type batches, so he establishes in us a low-cost qualified supplier on whom he can depend for best rate, best timetable service. The only problem that really arises here is the commitment of the larger partner to feed the smaller one. It is frequently a one-way street with great reliance on the goodwill of the larger partner. The last step we have taken is to go to a full but non-equity strategic alliance with the Canadian division of a major multinational avionics manufacturer. This is almost marriage. This is a mutual two-way agreement that involves a lot more lawyers and should lead to a lot more rewards for both parties, outside of any requirement to merely act as a subcontractor or to satisfy regional industrial benefits policies. The CEO of our partner is about to give a speech on February 18th outlining some of his perceptions of what this deal means to them. I'm going to take the next several minutes and paraphrase part of his presentation so you can understand their feelings on the subject. It was certainly very enlightening to me. The official announcement of this particular deal that we have struck is not until February 16th. So I'm going to have to refer to them as Company X. However, they are the 1,000-person strong Canadian unit of a 100,000-person strong multinational with gross sales of $12 billion. So we are definitely dealing with someone who's quite serious. And this is now an outtake from this person's speech. And he is going to be, when he gives this, talking about us. Quote, "I want to tell you about a very exciting new product being developed here in Canada for the world aerospace market. The way in which we became involved in this program and the nature of the business alliance which has been put in place to carry it through are, we believe, particularly creative. Strategic business arrangements are not new to us at Company X. We have a long history of innovative and productive agreements with major suppliers of components, subsystems, and services. We have also seized upon opportunities to expand our technology base through technology transfer arrangements of several types, which are typical of those described in the many private and government publications on the subject. One particular product improvement project also includes elements of new technology which have been invented within our own company, and it would be incorrect to give you the impression that we do not have an excellent research and development capability of our own. Included in our family of companies are several research and technology centers where pure and applied research is carried out to support our corporation's technology base in aerospace, automotive, and engineered materials. Nonetheless, even a corporate giant can no longer afford to carry out long-term, pure research projects with no apparent application in the internal strategic plan. The December 1991 issue of Scientific American carried a report on the fundamental redirection of the nature and purpose of research at AT&T's Bell Laboratories in New Jersey. They've been challenged to create a new model for corporate research, one which includes a strong emphasis on applied research in support of business groups. What applies to the epitome of U.S. industrial research certainly applies to us at Company X. It would be folly to assume that all the elements of technology which might be brought to bear to help us in our struggle for excellence would be captured by our own internal research and development programs. For this reason, we've begun to look for innovative ways of developing new products quickly, and I wish to describe for you one that is particularly exciting to us as it promises to be an outstanding Canadian success. He then goes on to describe the clean wing detection system, Instamar, the history of how we came together and whatever. Then back to his speech. Again, however, it's a great speech. I love it. Made today easy. Again, however, Instamar realized that they knew, this is when we just met, after we'd given a speech at the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. We had actually invented the better mousetrap, and we relaxed and sat back and waited for the world to come to our door. We figured, aha, we've got this sensor, this is marvelous, this is terrific, here comes the world, we'll line them up over here, they'll start to bid, we'll make billions. No, it doesn't work that way at all. We had to then, having built the better mousetrap, go out and find the partner. I mean, he didn't want to come at all. Nobody wanted to come, so we had to go give papers, go to shows, wave our arms, meet a lot of people, etc., etc. So we went to this show and caused some excitement in the aviation industry. Then back to his speech. Again, however, Instamar realized that they knew very little about the design, production, and certification of aircraft systems. Further, they realized that the production of a commercially successful instrument, which was fully certified for flight, would require resources well in excess of those which they had available. With support from the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, they approached us at Company X with their idea. After over a year of evaluation, investigation, market research, and business planning, we are now proceeding aggressively with a joint program development in which the two companies will combine resources to bring the clean wing detection system to market. What is different about the arrangements which have been put in place between these two companies? Let me observe that conventional technology acquisition agreements are essentially one way. A company which has developed, perhaps in rudimentary form, a technology, an application, or a product, agrees to provide that technology under license for use by another company. The receiving company provides specifications, design parameters, and guidance, and incorporates the licensed technology into products which are then sold. It is left to the receiving company to do the actual marketing of the end products. The present relationship has been carefully structured to work both ways. It was realized that at Company X we have access to markets, a well-established reputation in the aviation industry, a highly effective worldwide sales organization, a superb, round-the-clock, worldwide customer support capability, an established capability for design, build, test, and certification of aerospace products, and many years of experience in providing complex systems to the industry. Instamar, while lacking this experience and set of capabilities, has a much higher ratio of engineers and scientists to support staff and a degree of flexibility and adaptability which is rarely found in large companies. Furthermore, Instamar had already made important gains in leveraging their intellectual capital through a variety of relationships with universities, government research labs, and various agencies which sponsor and encourage entrepreneurial activities at a national or regional level. It was realized that the small company could, to some extent, take the place of the research laboratory skunkworks, and that we would otherwise maintain ourselves. Thus, the first agreement signed between our two companies was not a license or technology transfer agreement. It was, in fact, a strategic alliance agreement in which the two companies agreed to work together to design, build, and market instrumentation and sensing systems for the world aerospace market. There was no explicit mention of the clean wing detection system or the licensing of the technology which eventually would be used in that system. The strategic alliance agreement turns out to have some interesting properties. For one thing, either company can identify a market opportunity. It sometimes happens that a small company finds a market opportunity by virtue of its location and its own technology network. Regionalism is a fact in our country, and small companies in economically disadvantaged regions are actively encouraged to bid for contracts. However, often the small company cannot successfully compete for such contracts, lacking the experience, facilities, skills, and financing to perform the work. The Strategic Alliance Agreement contains provisions which establish the parameters by which we at Company X can support Instamar in such a bid. In this case, Instamar assumes the responsibility of prime contractor, while Company X becomes the major subcontractor. The smaller company identifies the scope of the work which they're able to perform and subcontracts the rest. In carrying out the work, the two companies combine resources to their mutual benefit. As a byproduct of this arrangement, the small company acquires an invaluable hands-on introduction to the aerospace business, enabling it to compete more successfully for additional contracts. Another feature of the Strategic Alliance Agreement is that it embodies the protection of intellectual property, which makes it possible for technical and scientific staff of the two companies to exchange information freely. It also enacts business arrangements which provide a vehicle for transferring funding for technical investigations without the necessity of a formal quotation process. This ensures that the intellectual resources of the two companies can be combined quickly and effectively to investigate the technological implications of a new market opportunity. This mechanism has already been exercised to identify key technologies for new product development in advanced sensing and instrumentation systems for the space market. The Strategic Alliance Agreement then provides the overall umbrella under which specific tasks can be implemented. In the case of the clean wing detection system, that implementation is embodied in a joint development and license agreement. The development program is structured in the conventional way using both internal and external funding. Company X has the lead role and will perform about 70% of the design and development work, and Instamar will carry out under subcontract distinct portions of the design and development. Both companies will participate in all of these activities in order to maximize the intellectual talent applied to the considerable challenges of the clean wing detection system development program. In other instances, specific tasks generated by either company are implemented under separate purchase orders, each with its own subset of specifications. It is evident, goes on the president of Company X, that the structure of such an agreement must be crafted with some care. An inordinate amount of respect and trust is required on both parts. Our company's staff outnumber theirs by a factor of about 50, and our respective annual sales reflect the same ratio. It would be very easy for us to inadvertently injure them, and it is therefore very important that good and clear channels of communication are established and used regularly. Key personnel in both companies must get to know each other and must learn to listen to and respect each other's thoughts and ideas. Nevertheless, the rewards can be considerable. In the context of this discussion on leveraging intellectual capital, it is especially interesting to note that the strategic alliance agreement which I have described has effectively doubled the number of senior scientific and technical staff which we can put to work on new product development at Company X, and has done so at virtually no cost to our company. I think you'll agree that represents a good return on the effort which went into establishing the agreement, end quote. So you can see that they think pretty highly of this. I didn't write that for them. Should have. But they're approaching this in an extremely positive fashion, and with the distinct capabilities of both firms, we believe we're going to have a very productive future. I would like to stress in all of these arrangements, however, that it is key that the people make the deals work. You can have the most complex arrangement on earth, but if the individual people that are involved in it don't want to make it work, it won't work. So regardless of the complexity of the arrangements, it all comes down to the goodwill of the individuals. So I've tried in this talk to give you some idea of the range of value added that can result from various types of alliances. There is no doubt that the form of alliance that can add the most value to an enterprise depends on the enterprise itself. However, I will go back to my original quote from Dr. King and stress his philosophy that it is critical for us all to cooperate in order to be successful. Our search has left us better capable to do what we do best, which is to innovate, and to have those innovations incorporated into systems and distributed by professionals in those fields. Instamar discovered it could not go to war alone, but that it needed alliances. I will end now with a quotation from a famous scientific authority from the past, Lord Kelvin, on the subject of innovation. Heavier than air flying machines are impossible. Thank you.
Thank Mr. Shinkle for sharing his experiences with us, and now I open the floor to questions to be addressed to either gentleman. Remember that if you don't want to ask your question, there will be runners picking up forms. Are there any questions to either gentleman?
This question is addressed to Mr. Shinkle. In your opinion, does government regulation help you as a company or hinder you in operating in Newfoundland, especially producing value-added products?
Government regulation can help and it can hinder. And again, it's very much like the talk at lunch. The regulations have to be reviewed. I believe that government has an obligation to set the framework within which business should be operating. And that includes a regulatory framework.
Hi, I have a question for Stephen Denson. In Peter Green's luncheon address, he told us about the Kitchener manufacturer, even though hypothetical, but he said how the manufacturer would contain his own little market. I'm just wondering, what does the EDC do to encourage local manufacturers to export?
Well, Lisa, there are a number of well-organized initiatives by a trade team, which is made up of the Export Development Corporation, International Trade Center here with the ISTC people, and COA as well as the provincial trade reps, to provide basic knowledge and infrastructure development to sort of pre-export companies, give them the skill sets they need to analyze the risks and opportunities in the export marketplace. And then when they're ready to export and have particular contracts to consider, then we have a broad range of insurance and financing services that in effect minimize the risk in terms of payment for them, and in some instances, in effect, those risks are less than they would be trying to do the same transaction in the domestic market.
I have a question for Mr. Shinkle. I was wondering, what are the benefits of producing and developing value-added and high-tech products in Newfoundland, and do they outweigh any negative aspects?
Well, one of the advantages that we find here is lifestyle and approach. We consider the lifestyle and approach here to be excellent. There's considerable government assistance available for your marketing activities, which helps to defray the cost sometimes of being so far away from the marketplace. We have here an extremely large pool of extremely intelligent people just waiting to be put to work. And it's certainly one of the great unique advantages is the actual infrastructure that is present at Memorial, at the Institute of Marine Dynamics, the Marine Institute, Secor. It just goes on forever. We have tremendous facilities available, extremely highly trained people to work in them. The disadvantages that we have here, I've mentioned certainly distance from the marketplace, which is, you can overcome it, but it just means marketing, 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 marketing. I've got great air miles, I can tell you. Its size, unfortunately, our companies, the individual private entrepreneurial companies themselves, are not very big. There is a lack of venture capital here, private venture capital, which it holds companies back a great deal. And the principal problem we face is our lack of confidence. We honestly don't believe we can compete in the world environment. And because we don't believe it, we don't try it. We certainly went out into the aerospace market, particularly the United States program on the Space Station Freedom, with incredible trepidations. I mean, we honestly did not believe that we could compete in that marketplace because, you know, we're just stupid Newfoundlanders. The first thing we competed on, we won. That first thing that we competed on and won, they doubled the order when we went through preliminary design review because they thought we'd come up with such a unique solution. We found out they have all the same problems we do. They watch all the same TV shows. They eat the same food. They put their pants on one leg at a time, all those things. So really, we just need to get the confidence to go out and compete because we can do it here. So there are disadvantages, there are advantages. To date for our company, the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages, and we certainly hope to continue to grow and prosper in this environment.